All right, welcome back to Fantasy Footballaholics Mock Draft Friday. And you never want to do just one platform, so we're going to wrap out another draft here with Dustin Schneider. I'll be in the 5, he'll be in the 8, just the same. Because since we know our draft positions, then we can always select them. Another good reason to always try to get your draft positions set up in your league prior to the draft. That way you can practice your specific position versus trying out all the positions just to get a feel. So if you have your position set up early, that's really good. So I am the leader of our work league, which is a 24-team league, 2 division conferences of 12, 2 divisions of 6. And I have a thing where I send out the draft selections early so people can practice their position. Plus, I like to do it, so that's why I do it. So the reason I recommend doing multiple platforms is my league does use Sleeper to draft, so I know that's what people are going to go off of ADP-wise. But when you do this, you can kind of see different scenarios where different platforms have different ADPs. For some reason on the computer, I can't select ADP, but you can see it on your phone.
Welcome to the best day of the year, draft day.
So we'll turn the sound off here. Sorry for that obnoxious intro. There is a lot of obnoxious noises on both platforms. The good thing about ESPN that I like a lot is you can join a lobby with other people. So right now we have, I believe, 11 people live. Makes things a little more accurate. So I'm on the clock, pick 5, and got a couple selections here that haven't normally dropped and probably won't drop, but if Cooper Kupp goes, I mean, players go sometimes, and you can't really always expect the unexpected. So since I got Derrick Henry and McCaffrey here, it's a pretty hard decision between the two. If McCaffrey is healthy, I believe he's a better pick, but King Henry is a stud. He could easily get you 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. Not easily, but potentially. So the other went is probably the number one fantasy player in the league. I never looked at it, but I believe Coop, he definitely was the number 1 receiver. He might have been the number 1 overall. I mean, Eckler did have 20 touchdowns. So, yeah, the number 1 overall scoring receiver, the number 1 scoring running back. You got to be careful when you're selecting your players that had high volumes of touchdowns. So Kupp and Eckler had a lot of touchdowns last year. Usually when players get a lot of touchdowns, they don't repeat. So usually volume and yardage is a little more safe to select somebody. Some guy like Henry gets 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. He doesn't do it the next year. A guy like Eckler gets 20 touchdowns, he's not going to do it again. So I still like Eckler top 5. He's kind of the guy that I'm targeting number 5 because I'd rather have him than Dalvin Cook because of injury history. But still, got to be careful getting guys that had really good seasons the year before. Yes, they were the best player last year, but you got to kind of look at it as a volume. Jonathan Taylor goes 3. He's usually going number 1. The reason why is he's kind of the safest top running back. Young guy, hasn't been hurt yet. I don't think he was ever hurt in college either. Justin Jefferson, arguably the number 2 receiver. Receivers aren't going to go like that high in most drafts. Dalvin Cook, top 5 running back, usually drafted by me at 5 in a lot of drafts. Jamar Chase, you could argue as a 2B to Justin Jefferson. Schneider goes to Dustin. I'm kind of surprised he didn't pick Christian McCaffrey. He might not have done it for the reality that that player won't be there when he selects. Because a lot of times you get to your spot in some drafts, mock drafts, and you see a guy that's really good to you at a certain spot, and you know that wouldn't happen. You don't select him just because of that. King Henry following the 5 isn't completely out of the books. Some people don't like him, but we'll see. After his selection, Najee Harris, the rookie out of the second-year running back out of Pittsburgh. We got Adams. We got Mixon, that top 10 running back. Then we got arguably the best possible value in the draft, especially if he has his healthy season. You know, he'll be a number 1. Nick Chubb, that is in that safe tier in the top 10. No, you're done with that, buddy? All right, let's have a few of these and hopefully you make it. Saquon goes in the turn. Saquon with Chubb, that's like pretty crazy combo. I would love to have that one. So you got Nick Chubb, who's a really reliable back. Doesn't get hurt, won't give you top 5 potential. And then you got Saquon Barkley, who has been hurt, but can give you top 5 potential. So you got that boomer bust and safe player. It's always good to go with a little boomer busty in your team. Huh, buddy? Right? But anyway, so on this mock draft, I'll be in and out a little bit. Because these are... Problem with doing all human selections is humans take a while. Stephon Diggs, top tier receiver. CeeDee Lamb, top tier receiver. DeAndre Swift, big potential receiver, but did have injury last year. Leonard Fournette, like I said. So in our last mock draft, we just did Leonard fell to me at round 3. So you can see when the beauty of picking in a mostly human draft, because people will go auto in here, like you can see there, third pick in the 3rd round is autoed already. And then the 3rd pick in the end of this round is autoed already. I think that's the same person, though. But eventually, after like 4 or 5 rounds, you're going to get all auto picks. All right, I just did my selection. I didn't realize I was that high. I wouldn't have been talking so much. But let's go through what we had here. Debo, lower volume because he's not running anymore. If that really happens. And he could be traded. There's rumors. That's kind of an unknown situation here, but he was top 5 receiver last year. Aaron Jones, that flex play. The reason I got James Conner is James Conner had a pretty big breakout year with Arizona last year and was healthy all year, which last year was the most healthy he's ever been in the league. So James Conner as your number 2 is always a great play. Cam Akers, same thing. He is number 1 in a high volume offense. Tyreek Hill, new team, but still has that breakaway speed. Aren't really too scared with Tua as his quarterback, because even though Tua can't throw far, Tyreek usually catches those 20-yard crossers and takes them in the house. So Tua can throw a 20-yard crosser. Mike Evans, number 1 guy in Tampa Bay, the loss of receiver, so more volume to him. So we'll get back to those plays when I'm here. Travis Kelsey falling this far probably would never happen. Would never happen for real, but since he's there, we'll take him. Most leagues he will go on the turn. Mike Williams Most drafts is probably going to go 5-6 rounds. So you can see sometimes when you play humans, they draft more from their heart than their stomach than their heart, right? So their heart instead of their brain. So Mike Williams is potential to be a top 10 receiver. But every year he'll have huge games and no games. Last year, his start of the year, he was looking to be a top 5 receiver, and then he disappeared in the second half. I'm not going to go too much on these guys because you just saw me do that in another video. So Deontay Williams should be the number 1 guy in Denver, but also splitting carries. Kamara's being suspended, so where you draft him depends on how ballsy you are, because when he's active, he could be a top 5. He's missed the 6 games, so I'm looking 6th round. 3rd's too early for me for sure. T. Higgins, best number 2 in the draft. 2 receiver in the draft. Andrews, the number 2 tight end. Get him in the 3rd round is always good. When Andrews goes before Kelsey, you know something's wrong because Kelsey's been the number 1 tight end for 6-7 years. Every single year. That's why he's always drafted in the end of the 1st, early 2nd. P. Mahomes right after. P. Mahomes was an end of the 1st round pick. People think he's disappeared just because Tyreek Hill. I think you'll notice just from like Tom Brady losing Randy Moss, quarterbacks are better than receivers. So good quarterbacks are always good. They make players better around them. Yes, good receivers make them better, but they're not going to become Patrick Mahomes to Tim Hasselbeck just because they lose their good receiver. P. Mahomes will still get close to 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, number 1, arguably with Mike Williams, 1A, 1B. Kyle Pitts, the 3rd tight end, usually goes 4th round, but end of the 3rd to mid of the 3rd to Dustin's safe place. He's that receiver that you can plug at a tight end, and for most of the tight ends, that's not true. Another good 3rd down running back, Ezekiel Elliott. His production's kind of going off, but his touchdowns stay there. DJ Moore, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns every single year. Let's see here. We got 2 running backs and a tight end. Quarterbacks available. Justin Herbert's still there. Haven't really selected Justin Herbert. Don't know if I'd want to. I'm going to go with Lamar here. I like to get those top tier running quarterbacks. Lamar is the highest volume rusher in the draft. He will run more than Hurts. Hurts is about the same. So basically, you get Hurts, you get a little more durable runner that can't throw as well than Lamar. Lamar, you get a high volume guy that throws less than Allen. Allen gets you running touchdowns. That's the difference between the few. So as you can see, further you get in the draft, you get a lot more autos, so picks start going faster. So see some of these running backs that went off after I was talking about. So we went Dobbins, Montgomery, Penny. See, as you see, they got Penny in the 4th round. So if I go quarterback tight end early, I definitely get my 3 running backs. ADP wise, and Elijah Mitchell's ahead of Sanders, but I'm going to take Sanders just for the fact that running backs from San Francisco change every single year. I don't know if they think they know more than everyone else, but it's like, hey, let's start this running back. Hey, let's start this running back. Elijah does have the handle on it, but it could change any day in San Francisco. And Miles Sanders is by far and away the number 1. Only problem with Miles Sanders is health. So J.K. Dobbins, high volume run team. David Montgomery, high volume run team. Rashad Penny, high volume run team. What I was going to talk about before I selected was, you get totally different drafts. Like Penny's 8th round running back, and this is drafted in the 4th round. I think 4th round is fine for Penny, but that's not where ADP tells you to pick him. So you're going to get these different drafts by using different platforms. So I like Penny. I want to get him as my flex play, but I can get him in the 7th or 8th round versus in here the start of the 4th. But something like this will happen in your draft. That's why it's good to use multiple platforms. Pittman, number 1, Indy. Waller is that next tier of tight ends. All right, well, I got to take this guy out because he does not want to eat no more. He just wants to hang out. Yay, Harrison. Woo. All right. A.J. Brown. Oh, I'm on the clock, buddy. Got a pick. So, if there's really good running backs here, I'm still going to check them, but I am going to pick the best available player. When I go zero running receiver strat, I do not reach for receivers. I do really like Tyler Lockett and the running backs that were there, other than I don't really like Damien Harris, so I will pick Tyler Lockett to start as my number one receiver. Tyler Lockett is getting completely disrespected, and I'll explain more of that later on. Wow, Josh Allen was still there. I didn't even know that. I would have picked him instead of Lamar. Or did I get Lamar after that? I can't remember now. So let's go down the list. Josh Allen goes, solid running back. There was Aaron Rodgers, which is weird. I picked Lamar, so Josh Allen was off the board. Terry McLaurin, Jalen Waddle, Marquise Brown, couple number two receivers on their team. Juju Smith I like a lot here. Bateman I like a lot here. So there's a couple guys here, so I could wait another turn for a receiver if there's a running back I like. I'd really like Tony Pollard, so I will pick Tony Pollard here. This is a really solid flex play. Could take over the job from Elliott entirely, however. So that's why I like him a lot. All third down work, a lot of the midfield work. Just got touchdowns stolen from him. But every year, Tony Pollard's value has went up. Just when he becomes the number one, it will eventually happen. Oh, thanks, buddy. This little troublemaker. But what did I expect when I tried to do 2 mock drafts? All right, Courtland Sutton. Love that pick. Number 1 from Russ. Amon, not so much, because Amon is definitely going to get stuff taken away from him. They got a bunch of new options in Detroit. Gibson, they've said recently he's going to lose some goal line work because he had fumble problems last year. Etney, the rookie that will get the first chance for Jacksonville. Miles Sanders goes to me. Schulten, a high-volume tight end. Love that pick. Back to Elijah Moore. Niners have not had a running back be the number 1 on their team in back-to-back years in a long time. DK, beautiful pick for Dustin. Like I said before, just because you lose the number 1, well, kind of opposite what I said here in this statement. Teams have X amount of volume regardless of their quarterback, right? So, for instance, Russ is gone. Tyler and DK's ADPs have tanked, right? So Tyler or DK last year was a top 5 receivers, top 10 receiver selected for sure. He was going the 2nd to 3rd round. This year he's fallen all the way to 5th, and the reason for that is because everyone thinks that just because Russ is gone, they're going to suck, which is not true because teams still throw for 4,000 yards regardless who's there. Touchdown volume, yes, definitely drops. So his stats, yes, probably will definitely drop no matter what. But they get Baker Mayfield, DK's way better. They get let me draft real quick before I explain things. So like I said in my last mock draft, I'm loving me starting some Russell Gage, especially at the start of the season. Gage was brought in specifically by Brady, so he will have a lot of work early on. All right, so good quarterbacks are good regardless of their receivers. Good receivers will be good regardless of their quarterbacks. Not as good, but teams have to play. If you have the worst quarterback in the league, he's still going to throw for 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. So you still have that option to get 1,000 yards and 5-6 touchdowns. Yes, that moves you to the 5th, 4th round, but do not be afraid to take DK. He will still be good. And actually, Geno Smith and him had better stats than Russ and him had last year in the 3-game sample size. Brandon Cooks, Clyde Edwards, Brandon Cooks. Hey, buddy. So since I took Russell Gage last pick, I'm going to take Jameis Williams this pick. The reason I'm not even looking at running backs because I know who's there, and Jameson Williams will give me a really good option after Chris Godwin goes back. Clyde Edwards every year is the same. doesn't live up to his potential. Let's see here. What do we got? What do we got, Harrison? Huh? What do we got, buddy? What do we got, buddy? Running backs, Marlon Mack, Ronald Jones, Damian Pierce. Not a lot here to like. Receivers, I really like getting Scantling, so I'll grab him now. Scantling could be the number one in KC. I'm getting so far behind here, it's not really worth going through these players anymore. I'm 6th round, I'm in the 11th. Mama! Mama! Mama, mama! Mama, mama! Alright, we will do 2 more picks and then we're going to get off because this man is being crazy! So apparently, instead of being a serious fantasy football podcast, I might turn into a family friend jokey podcast. Right, buddy? Alright, let's look at our team. We got Lamar Jackson as our quarterback. Great. So, a couple years ago, he had kind of an off year last year, but he was selected 2nd to 3rd round. Get him in the 4th. Henry can be the MVP. I believe he did win in a year. So, love that pick. James Conner, a lot of catching volume and a high volume offense. All right, let's see what we can get here, buddy. Yeah, bubba. Drop. Yeah. All right, so I will pick Madison due to his ability to take over for Cook if Cook gets hurt. All right, so I got Derrick Henry and James Conner and Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders had an insane year. I'm going to let the rest go to auto pick. So Lamar Jackson, like I said, he was the second quarterback taken after Patrick Mahomes 2 years ago. Henry has the potential to get you 2,000 yards and 20 touchdowns. Not going to happen, but he is, other than McCaffrey, the most centric player around his offense as a running back. So Henry, they feed him the ball. McCaffrey, they feed them the ball. That's why those guys, barring injuries, are going to be 1 and 2 in the league. The only reason that Taylor goes ahead of them is because they've been injured the last couple of years. All right, Connor usually misses a few games. So even though Connor played really well last year, was his least injured year, he does miss a few games every year. But his stats have been good, even in Pittsburgh. Tyler Lockett, same thing that I say with DK Metcalf. He is a 1,000-yard receiver with 10 touchdown upside. Everyone's scared to take him because of a new quarterback. But especially if they get Mayfield, he will have 0 down tick. But if they start the other 2 guys, even Geno Smith's still going to throw for 20 to 30 touchdowns, 3,000 to 4,000 yards. So don't worry about it. Russell Gage is going to be the number 1 guy in a high speed offense. So he's going to get a lot of targets first, 5-6 weeks. Travis Kelsey was a steal in this draft. He won't go to the 3rd round in any draft. He will be the number 1 tight end like he has done every year the last 6 to 7 years. I already mentioned Miles Sanders. He's the number 1 running back on a good offense. Should get you 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. I didn't pick my defensive kicker, but funny thing, I got the same kicker as the other draft. Tony Pollard could take over the starting job for Dallas. If anything, he's still going to be a 3rd down back on a high passing offense and still taking possessions away from Zeke. Whoa. Kenny Walker, rookie for Seattle. Everyone thinks Rashad Penny's going to get hurt. Rashad Penny has the lead as a starter. I have no reason to see why Rashad Penny won't be the starter, but if he gets hurt like he always does, Ken Walker is going to be the man. So he will be able to start for me on those weeks. Jay will be the number 1 for Detroit. My thought process getting him here. Russell Gage starts out the year. Godwin comes back. Godwin's going to be the number 1 or 2. Gage will be the number 3 option. Jay Will comes back whenever he's healthy. He will be the number 1 in Detroit, so I can swap those 2 out. Scantling could be the number 1 in Green Bay. I like to gamble on him late in drafts. His ADP is pretty low. Madison would be a top 20 back if Cook goes down, so you can always play him in your flex. And that's all the drafts I picked. Let me look at Dustin's team really quick, and we will call this a mock draft. So Dustin stole Josh Allen in the 3rd, or was it the 4th? I can't remember. Either way, I should have got him. Naeem Harris, his running back he always gets. Leonard Fournette, that beautiful back I talked about last draft. Loves catching passes for Brady. Rushed for almost 1,000 yards. Caught like 500-600 yards last year. Increased some touchdown volume maybe this year. He could be top 10 for sure. DK, that big body tight end catcher. G. Davis, number 2 in Buffalo. A lot of people like him this year. Pitt's a beautiful pick at tight end because he's basically a receiver you can get in tight end position. Deontay Smith, number 2 receiver out of Philly. I'm assuming he's not going to start for him, but maybe he is. I don't know. Or is this, who is this? It is Deontay Smith. Maybe he had to quit drafting, and it kind of just selected for him. Let's see. I got a text. Left the draft. There you go. All right, so there you go. And this will be the end of my mock draft Friday. Well, Saturday morning. Say bye, Harrison. Bye. Fantasy Footballaholics out.